Hello and welcome to Southern Ohio Sports Talk, a new sports talk show. We're going to try and do it every week. I'm sports reporter at the Portsmouth Daily Times, Ben Spicer, and I'm with the sports editor, Kevin Colley. Kevin, it's almost high school football season. Are you excited?
Yes, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to see these teams talking about how competitive they are in practice. I'm ready to see it on the field.
Yeah, we've been to several media days around the area. And, of course, the best team, so it seems, in the area, Wheelersburg, they've been consistent the last 10 or so years. They're always ready to play under head coach Rob Woodward. And you look at their schedule, they've got Heath, who was 10-1 last season, and then a team that you mentioned, Bishop Watterson, they were just 3-7 last year, but they're from Columbus. Do you see Wheelersburg struggling in any of those games? And beyond that, is there anyone in the conference that could upset Wheelersburg?
I really don't. With 83 players on the roster, 59 sophomore through senior, I just don't see any way they're going to struggle. Coach Woodward talks about his skill players and talks about how talented his defense is. But the thing he's really excited about, and that I'm excited about to see, is their offensive line. He says it is as deep as any he's ever had at Wheelersburg. 10 guys he can rotate in and out, 2 teams. He can put an entire fresh unit in there. He said it's been a long time since he's had that. And so I'm really excited to see them from that standpoint alone. But I'm also excited to see 6'6" Tanner Holden play wide out and as a free safety. Obviously, having 6'6" playing ability, being able to go sideline to sideline, it's going to be great watching him. And then Xander Carmichael is such a physical specimen at the linebacker position, can make plays. He's just a natural-born leader out there. He's a great football player, a great athlete in general, as you'll see later on in 2018 on the baseball diamond as a catcher. He's just a great all-around athlete.
Can you talk a little bit about Xander Carmichael and his ability? It seems like there was a bit of a quarterback battle going into summer, but we think that Mac Dyer is probably going to be the starting quarterback. He was the starter last season. Can you talk a little bit about what he does well at the quarterback position?
Well, at 6'2", he just sees the field and manages the game very well, as does Cole Lowry and Trent Sayers, the other guys battling for the spot. Obviously, Coach Woodward talked about running several different packages. You'll see him in the I, you'll see him in the T, you'll see him in the wishbone, you'll see him in the spread, you'll see him in the pistol. They'll run anything that just suits their matchup on any given day, and they can do them all very, very well because they have committed and dedicated players to the program. That's why they've been 48-6 over the past 4 seasons with 4 consecutive trips to the regional finals and 3 consecutive SOC 2 championships. Speaks for itself.
And those seniors have been to a regional final in every year of their career. On the opposite end of the spectrum, a team that's normally consistently pretty good in Valley, they had a down year last year. They're 1-9. You look at their schedule this year, they play some interesting teams. Coal Grove was 6-3 last year. Piketon was 7-3 last year. And Raceland was 10-3 last year. So they're not getting any breaks in the non-conference schedule for sure. What are your thoughts on Valley?
Valley, I think when you're losing a quarterback like Brian Rolfe and players like Blake Howard and Drew Walford, it's going to be tough to replace them. However, I do not think anybody, in the Valley Faithful expected the season to be as rough as it was last year. With that being said, they ended the season great with the win, in the Battle of Lucasville-Minford Road, beating Minford 17-7 in that final game. And we talked about that with Coach Crabtree, and he was just, talking about how that win has just set the tone for the entire offseason and to make sure that Valley does not experience the season that they had again last year. They changed their look even. The helmet it's kind of a thing of sorts to just change the mentality of last year into this year. And they already have you got Andrew Shutt back there ready to lead the charge. He's got a year of experience under his belt, played very, very well while people are impressed with him. JT Ward led the team in rushing, led the team in tackles 2 seasons in a row. Tanner Guttingham is a 3-sport athlete, great player, basketball and baseball. I'm really, really looking forward to seeing what he does on the football field. Tucker Williams coming out too, playing football as a senior. He's going to bring some athleticism to the table. They've got a big line. I really think they can be the most improved team in the area, and I would not be surprised at all to see them win 4 or 5 games this year. And they could very well surprise and have a winning record. It would not shock me one bit because Darren Crabtree's been around for 2 decades plus, and he knows how to get the best out of his football players. He's been proven.
You talk about Crabtree, a relatively new coach, and Ben Johnson starting his 4th season with the Senators. They have a lot of depth. I just met with him earlier today. He talked a lot about that depth, and they're going to go with Dylan Bradford as their quarterback. And looking at their schedule, they also play Raceland, that 10-3 Rams squad last year, as well as Coal Grove, and they'll play Schroeder, who went 2-8 last season, but they are from Cincinnati. Their 2 wins were a combined score of 65-0. So an interesting game there with Schroeder. So talking about West and all these players that they have, some guys to watch out for as well. LT Maynard and Josh Berry, 2 guys that are going to play both sides of the ball, Maynard and Berry, receiver. What are your thoughts on what Ben Johnson's done so far at West, and do you think this could be maybe his breakout season?
I think it will be. I think he put himself on the map. Valley had a 36-game winning streak, and he comes in, and they win 35-21, beat Valley. Beating a coach like Dan Crabtree, I mean, that's really impressive any way you slice it. What he did at Liberty Union speaks for itself. The issue with West is they've had injuries and different sorts of things with players that have been transferred out of the school. It's kind of set them back from a depth standpoint. I think this year, you'll see that West will be a very tough out. They were very young last year, and I think Coach Johnson is one of the best masterminds as far as an offensive standpoint is concerned. I really think West will give a lot of teams a lot of problems. You're not going to have West punched out in the first half. It's going to be a fight for all 4 quarters, and Coach Johnson's teams are always around. They're not going to go anywhere.
Bradford was one of those guys who suffered an injury last season. So as for Minford, their head coach Jesse Ruby, you met with him at Media Day and talked with him some. If you look at the Falcons, they have an interesting schedule as well. They went 5-5 last season. This year they're going to play Nelsonville York, who was 9-3 last season. Wheelersburg knocked them out in the playoffs. Rock Hill went 6-4, and then Williamsburg was 4-6, and Logan was 3-7. So the non-conference schedule, they have some tough games, and then they have some games that should be manageable to win. What did you hear from Coach Ruby and what's going on with the Falcons?
They started off last season really well. Going 5-1, your first 6 games, you win Oak Hill, huge win, rivalry game, beat West in overtime, 19-16. Those are big wins. And then the bottom kind of fell out. You're playing Wheelersburg and Waverly, and then obviously the loss to Valley, Lucasville, Minford Road. I mean, that's a tough one to take. It's a huge rivalry game. That 4-game losing streak at the end of the year has kind of had Coach Ruby rethinking some things, and he's made every position up for grabs in the offseason, made everything, about competitiveness and trying to preach that and instill that into his guys, that every week, every day is going to be about, competing for that week's game. It's not going to be a seal-in spot. You're not going to have it clinched by any means. It's going to be a week-to-week basis. Every position is 2 or 3 deep, he says. And as far as I'm concerned, I like what I see, especially Braden Tilley there. I mean, that's a guy you're going to always count on him to make a lot of plays for you. The SOC to in general, top to bottom, I think is as good as it's been. I mean, any one of the 5 teams can have, or any one of the 5 teams in it can have winning records. It's just a matter of how does the ball bounce. Turnover battle is huge, and how you manage the game with the offenses that you run.
And so we're going to move on to the OVC now to talk about the Portsmouth Trojans. Their head coach, Aaron Duncan. A lot of hype around the Trojans. They've got a new quarterback. Yes. What can you tell us about Isaac Kelly?
Isaac Kelly is a transfer from Lewis County. Everybody's going to say Lewis County went 1-9 last year. Who's this kid named Isaac Kelly? That can be squashed because he's a heck of an athlete. He was Lewis County's offense. If they did not have him, Lewis County would have lost about every game. He did so much for Lewis County, running the ball, throwing the ball. He's a next level athlete. He's just so great in the pocket. He's poised. He knows how to lead a team. He's 6'2", 6'3", 200 pounds, strong, runs out of the pocket very well. You can have design quarterback sneaks, draws, keepers with him, and he can take it 20, 30 yards without a problem. Him and Talon Parker back there, that's such a dangerous a duo for opponents to face in OVC. And honestly, if you want my opinion, with Colin Bain and then Gabe Gamble joining them at 6'5", 290 for Bain, 6'5", 275 for Gamble, I think that Portsmouth can win the OVC. I really do. I think this is the year Portsmouth turns the corner and gets to the top realm of the OVC.
Now let's take a look at their schedule before we wrap things up here. They went 6-4 last season. They're going to play Gallion in the non-conference. Gallion was 2-8 last season, and Gallia Academy was 1-9. So it's looking like the schedule could shape up in Portsmouth's favor this season in the OVC. Thank you for joining us in our first episode of Southeast Ohio Sports Talk. We hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to share and check us out as we continue throughout the season. For Kevin Colley, I'm Ben Spicer.